These series of hypos are going to involve the character Tony Soprano. I grew up on the Sopranos and am a huge James Gandolfini fan, God rest his soul. I don't mean anything disparaging by using him in these examples, but it just brought the hypos to life for me. Funny side note on Tony Soprano and James Gandolfini, I am Italian, and my grandmother, whose house we'd always go over for dinner at night, abhorred the Sopranos, and we were never allowed to watch any episodes on the television. She would shut it off and scold us and admonish us for watching the episodes. Ironically enough, the very last episode of The Sopranos was filmed at Holston's, which happens to be an ice cream parlor 2 blocks away from where my grandmother lived. I, of course, was more excited than you can ever imagine to perhaps be able to be there and watch them produce the last episode. My father's office was located directly across the street. He's also a lawyer from Holston's. My grandmother, on the other hand, was so upset about it that she wrote the local paper, the Independent Press, going off on the board of freeholders that they should have never allowed the Sopranos to come in and videotape that last episode in her backyard. So it's a funny irony. I will say that the end of it is even funnier because I got to meet James Gandolfini in person and I got an autograph from him. So that's something that I will never forget. But here, we're going to pick on Tony a little bit. The feds, as we all know, never really caught up to Tony in the 8 years that this series ran. But he's arrested, and finally arrested, and is on trial for assaulting an elderly woman. In court, he looks like a clean, upstanding, middle-aged man. The prosecutor, however, knows better. The prosecutor has his rap sheet, which shows 6 prior arrests for robbery. Oh boy, 3 prior convictions for assault and 2 prior convictions for perjury. Question 1, as part of its case in chief, can the prosecutor introduce Tony's criminal history? No. Question 2, can the prosecutor introduce Tony's criminal history or any part of it if Tony doesn't try to show his good character, but only takes a stand and denies his involvement in the crime? So, just picture the circumstances here. The prosecutor is salivating to use Tony's criminal history, or even one part of it. And Tony has taken the stand, but he hasn't opened up the door. He only takes the stand to deny his involvement in the crime. Now, I want to go back for a second. The crime that he's charged with is assault. He's charged with assaulting an elderly woman. So, can the prosecutor introduce Tony's criminal history? To show Tony's disposition to be violent? No. To impeach credibility or to show lack of truthfulness? Yes. So, the part of Tony's criminal background that deals with truthfulness would be admissible to impeach his credibility as a witness, even without him showing his good character, even without him opening up the door. Merely by him getting on the stand and denying his involvement in the crime, the prosecutor can take out that judgment of conviction that dealt with his perjury conviction and impeach his credibility. All right, because perjury is a crime that casts doubt on a person's truthfulness. And Tony is testifying, so his credibility is in play. And the prosecutor's impeaching him. Third question, can Tony take the initiative to show his good character? Yes, of course. For what trait may Tony show his good character? Well, remember, he's being charged with assault. If he wants to show his good character, then he has to introduce evidence of his reputation for peacefulness, because the crime for which he has been charged is violent, assault. Fifth question, what method or technique is available for Tony to demonstrate his good character? So here are our choices. Specific acts of good conduct, opinion, reputation. Well, Tony wants to present himself as a peaceful person to show that he acted consistent with peacefulness on this occasion. Only evidence in the form of reputation or opinion is admissible. Specific acts of good conduct are inadmissible when defendant is offering circumstantial evidence of his good character. So here's what I mean by that. If Tony wants to bring in Paulie to say that Paulie's known Tony for the last 14 years, he's a pussycat, or let's go beyond that because that's still going to be reputation or opinion. But let's say that Paulie takes a stand and says, you know, I've known Tony for the last 14 years. I've seen him walk old ladies across the street and, and help them, with their groceries. That is getting into specific acts of good conduct. That's off limits. It's not admissible. Oh, and here we have Paulie. Paulie comes to court and he testifies that Tony has a good reputation for peacefulness, and that in Paulie's opinion, Tony is peaceful. This is, let's say that it comes out in the form of, quote, I know Tony's reputation for peacefulness in the community, and Tony is a pussycat. Is it admissible? Yes, it is. Again, we are dealing here with reputation or opinion. That's the only form of evidence that is permissible to demonstrate good character. But it does follow the rules of evidence. How can the prosecutor respond? After the accused offers evidence of good character, the prosecutor can respond by cross-examining Paulie by inquiring about any specific acts which would affect his opinion. So in fact, the prosecutor could attack the credibility of the character witness himself by introducing evidence of Paulie's prior conviction for perjury or bad reputation for truthfulness. May the prosecutor ask Paulie on cross, quote, have you heard or do you know that Tony was arrested 6 times for robbery? Yes, but it's a specific act. How can that be? Well, rationale is that this question is being asked not to attack Tony's character, but instead it's being asked to challenge Paulie's credibility. And once again, it's a great question because no matter how Paulie answers it, he's cornered himself. If he says he didn't know that Tony was arrested 6 times for robbery, how well does he really know Tony's reputation? If he testifies that Tony had a reputation for peacefulness despite knowing that Tony had been arrested 6 times for robbery, how credible of a witness is he? Suppose that Paulie says, no, I don't believe that Tony was arrested 6 times for robbery. This is where it gets interesting. Can the prosecutor call a witness to testify that Tony was actually arrested 6 times for robbery? No. The prosecutor is bound by the specific answer of Paulie. And so, if Paulie is coached well, he might answer like that. But we have to always keep in mind that there's a jury and they've got their truth detectors out there like tentacles of an octopus, and they will know that something doesn't sound right. Can the prosecutor call a witness to testify that Tony has a bad reputation for violence and that in the witness's opinion, Tony is a violent person? Yes, but keep in mind that's after the accused offers evidence of good character. So the prosecution can't come right out of the gate. He's got to wait until the accused opens up the door.